It's time, Cougar Nation. Cougar Tracks. The best season analysis with BYU insider Mitch Harper on KSL NewsRadio and on video every day on the YouTube page for KSL Sports.
Welcome into Cougar Tracks here on the KSL Sports YouTube and KSL NewsRadio, your legacy home of the BYU Cougars. I am your BYU insider, Mitch Harper, coming to you from Kansas City, Missouri, site of Big 12 Basketball Media Days. The BYU men's team will take center stage on Wednesday as Kevin Young, Richie Saunders, Rob Wright, and heralded freshman A.J. DeBonsa, fresh off a 30-point performance in the exhibition loss to Nebraska. They will all be taking questions from the media at the T-Mobile Center here in KC, and it should be an eventful 2 days here at the Big 12 Basketball Media Days. But we're not talking basketball to start things off in this episode of Cougar Tracks. We got a hit on football, who continues to ride high after that big rivalry win over the Utes. But it begs the question, what do they do next to avoid a potential letdown? It's the top story of the day here on Cougar Tracks.
The top story of the day. The biggest story in the world of BYU sports right here on Cougar Tracks.
Games against Utah can be draining. They can be absolutely draining on a team. And that's why I think it's a big storyline this week as the Cougars get ready to take on the Iowa State Cyclones this Saturday in Ames. First visit to Ames since 1974 for the Cougars. Kickoff will be at 1:30 p.m. Extended pregame from Ames live. Myself, I'll be in Iowa 10 a.m. for the Cougs and the Cyclones to get you ready for the big matchup in Iowa. But it begs the question of what it's going to take to avoid a letdown this time around. Because last year, BYU was in the same spot, undefeated, riding high after a big rivalry win over the Utes. The Cougars rose to number 6 in the college football playoff rankings, but then they had a letdown. They lost to Kansas, who was a good team, but not great. They were struggling. They couldn't win close games last year, that being Kansas, but they had Jalen Daniels, Devin Neal, and they were the world beaters last year in the Big 12 at that stretch of the season, and they knocked off BYU, and then that loss snowballed into a loss at Arizona State, and ultimately that kicked BYU out of the Big 12 championship game. So how does BYU avoid a letdown once again in this spot after an emotionally charged, physically demanding win over Utah? This was Kalani Sitake in his media availability this week discussing avoiding the letdown against the Utes.
You have to learn from the past. I mean, we just had to do some things different. I think last year it was such an emotional game, and everything went into it. It's the same thing like this year, where you put so much energy into it, and maybe it was a buildup of the game week itself, and then the energy at the game and being on the road. But then, when we got back in the buses, we came back here to Provo, and we had, thousands and thousands of the whole student section was here in our parking lot. We couldn't even get out of our buses for a couple hours. They had Will Farron crowd surfing, and so it kind of delayed us, getting to bed. And as much as we enjoyed the energy and loved it, it kind of delayed us getting our sleep so we could get to church the next morning, But you just saw how much people loved it, and maybe our attention to the detail and the urgency for the next week didn't go well, but it probably had something to do with the week. I knew that going into this game, and that when we saw it on the schedule, that we didn't perform at our best against Kansas the next week, and we need to do things a little bit differently and need to be more deliberate and intentional about what we want to get done, how we're going to learn from this game, and how we're going to put it away, and how we can't just be. The game's done. We've got to move on, us and Utah, and regardless of whether it's a victory or a defeat, you have to move on. You have to find ways to get better, and you have to make sure that you don't have the lasting effect of a game 1 week linger on to the next. And so we're fortunate because we have this game coming up against Iowa State, and then we have a bye, so we can really look forward to doing everything we can to use all our energy going into this game, knowing that there's going to be a little bit of rest after that. So with that being said, and we're talking to Dr. Main, a sports scientist, and we've devised a plan to get ourselves in a better position we can do on ourselves intentionally, and we can do all that, and it's still not good enough. But at least we're going to do our part and make sure that we focus on trying to find ways to be at our best this weekend.
It's an empty the tank type of game for BYU this week against Iowa State, and I thought that was a good breakdown from Kalani Sitake, and it's what I talked about on Saturday night after the win over Utah. Last year, the players didn't get home really until about 6:30 a.m., 6 a.m., somewhere around there. It was a late kickoff, and there was a lot of celebration after the win, so it took a while to get back home on a road game, bus ride, all that stuff. So I think this one, even though there was a great celebration, earlier kick time, field storming, you're at home, you just went to your beds quickly. You didn't have any post-student-athlete building celebration with crowd surfing and things like that. So in terms of schedule, I think BYU's already off to a better start this week following the Utah win than they were a week ago. One of the guys that's going to be looked upon to have a big impact in this game against Iowa State is Jack Kelly, who made his first return back from an injury with the shoulder that he suffered against West Virginia. And Jack knows that they've got to avoid that letdown once again.
We need to do a better job this year compared to last year with that. Obviously, that game is over. We won. We're happy about the result, but we need to focus on this week. We got to play Iowa State. They're a great team, and we really just got to be locked in on this weekend, put that one in the past.
They do have to put it in the past, and Jack is trying to put the injury that he suffered in the past, and he gave an update on his health as well this week.
Good. The shoulder didn't feel like it got any worse, so no setbacks there. Obviously, it was a physical game, so the body's pretty sore, but overall, doing really good and in good health.
That's a good update for Jack Kelly because he is critical for the success of this BYU team. You just think about when he was on the field for BYU, it just changed everything, I think, for this team. They were so much more efficient as a defense this week against Utah compared to what they were a week ago, 2 weeks ago, against Arizona. Now, on Saturday, Isaiah Glasker got banged up, and we'll see on him. He did play the second half, but in that first half, he was pretty much absent for the Cougars. So, we'll see what the availability report looks like this week regarding the Iowa State game. But BYU, I think, is in a great spot right now, and they're just trying to continue to build the momentum. And it was interesting, though, along with putting the Utah game in the past, one thing that has been overly scrutinized coming out of that Utah win was analytics. Kyle Whittingham talked about analytics were the reason that he went for field goals or went for it on fourth down instead of field goals. Kalani Sitake also had a moment where he went for it on fourth down late in the game when BYU was up by 10. They took a shot to the end zone instead of trying to get the first down on fourth down. Kalani explained that decision in greater detail at his press conference.
I have to review all of it, but I felt like we made the right decision, and I feel like I mean, you kick the field goal, you go up 2 touchdowns. That's good, but they still, the whole point of that drive was to drain their timeouts, which we did, and ideally you'd like to get the first down. I don't know if you need to take a shot to the end zone, but it would have been nice to, they were in zero coverage, and so it would have been nice to get that first down and then just end the game there. But we knew that we would have to play defense, but it'd be easier for us to play defense, making them drive the entire field and have them to score. And then we knew that we'd have to have our hands team out and that they would have to kick a onside kick. And I like our chances with all of that being said. And when the team's down, even worst case scenario, they get the onside, they still have to score 3 points, and more than likely they're going to use 3 downs to get the 3 points rather than 4 downs to get the 6, because they're forced to use 4 downs. And so you're looking at an opportunity for them to possibly kick a field goal in a hostile environment on a 4th down. And I think our defense could really answer to the call to all of that. So that's the mindset going into that. I would like to have converted the first down and end the game, but I do like the fact that we burned their timeouts and we're given an opportunity that they had to recover an onside kick in order for them to even have a chance at the game. And we took care of it, and the game is the way it was.
Good breakdown there from Kalani Sitake on that decision. I was, in the moment, I kind of thought it was a little strange, but hearing that breakdown, I can get on board with that. I think it was just more so probably should just try to get the first down rather than taking a shot to the end zone. But either way, BYU gets it done, and now they've got to put that Utah game in the past and look ahead to the Iowa State Cyclones, which will take everything that BYU can offer. I mean, BYU is an underdog in this game, so the disrespect continues, and BYU can use that as motivation. Let's take a break. We'll get to more Cougar Tracks on the other side. Bear Bachmeier, he's trending up for the Cougars as the star quarterback at BYU. It's Cougar Tracks on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports YouTube page. Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on KSL Sports YouTube. You can get the podcast on YouTube. Like this video, subscribe to KSL Sports YouTube, and also subscribe to the podcast audio form wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a 5-star rating and a review. So this week I'm here in Kansas City for Big 12 Basketball Media Days. It's, to me, an incredible basketball league. The top end of Big 12 men's basketball is going to be incredible this year, and BYU is in the thick of that chase. And what's exciting for BYU is that they go into a season not as a sleeper anymore. The past 2 years, BYU's been in the back half of the league. Last year, they were picked 9th in year one under Kevin Young. 2 years ago, they were picked 13th out of 14 teams in both years. BYU has made the NCAA tournament as a Big 12 member. And last year, of course, they were a Sweet 16 team. BYU basketball is soaring to new heights. And I'm really curious to see how big of a story BYU is at Big 12 Basketball Media Days, because the past 2 years, I don't think there's been much buzz about BYU. It was kind of intrigue about Kevin Young last year, but still, I don't think there was much national attention with the Cougars. When you're a preseason top 10 team like BYU is this year, there's a lot more attention for this squad. And again, BYU will take center stage here in Kansas City on Wednesday, along with the other 15 men's teams. On Tuesday, it's center stage for the women, and I'm going to head over to the T-Mobile Center to catch up with BYU basketball head coach Lee Cummard and also BYU women's star Delaney Gibb and a few other players, Brinley Cannon and Hattie Ogden. And it's a new era for BYU women's basketball with Lee Cummard as the head coach, and I think he's the right guy for the position. I think he probably should have been the head coach after Jeff Judkins, to be quite honest with you. But still, I think that Cummard takes over the role now, and he's the head man. And he's also assembled a little bit of a retooled staff. Pretty much everyone comes back from last year's staff, guys like John Wardenberg. But also he brought in assistant coach and BYU great Paisley Johnson-Harding. And I had the chance to catch up with Johnson-Harding recently. Of course, Paisley was on that excellent BYU women's basketball team that got to a 6th seed in the NCAA tournament a few years back with Shaylee Gonzalez. And ever since that moment, BYU women's basketball has come nowhere close to the NCAA tournament. So what does she see from BYU this year in year one under Lee Cummard and her journey as a coach from player to the bench as a coach? This is my conversation with Paisley Johnson-Harding here on Cougar Tracks. BYU women's basketball, new era for the program, and Coach Lee Cummard's the head coach. Assistant on the bench is a familiar face to Cougar Nation, Paisley Harding, who now is assistant coach, comes over from UVU to BYU. Coach, how's it being back at BYU?
It's so much fun. You know, I'm just loving it. It's been really great. It feels like home. It's a little weird being back here at BYU now on the coaching side because, you know, I practiced in the annex, practiced in the MC, played in the MC, and it's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I should be out at practice, but it's been really good. I'm loving it.
And when you say you feel like you should be at practice, there's even a player on this roster that you were a teammate with 4 years ago in Hampson.
Yes, Hampson and Ari Mackey-Williams. So, yeah, it's been honestly so fun to come back and just be a part of them. They've welcomed me back, you know, now as their coach, which is really awesome. And, yeah, I'm really excited for those two players, but honestly, everyone. It's been good to get to know everyone. I always kept, you know, being an alum, I always kept tabs on the program and obviously the girls. I feel a special, like, kinship towards all of them, wanting to help them. And now that I'm their coach, like, I feel I can really do that the best I can.
When Coach Cummard made the pitch to bring you to BYU, jump on the opportunity instantly, or is there thoughts of, well, I don't know if I want to go back, or like what was kind of the thought process behind the decision?
No, I absolutely loved my career here at BYU. I mean, you obviously want to go back to the place you played at and be able to coach if you're going down that road, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity. Lee was one of the coaches that I really trusted as a player. Like, all of the coaches were absolutely amazing my whole career, but especially him. He was someone I was able to lean on to, especially basketball-wise, to be able to teach me things. And, I just feel so grateful that I get to have the opportunity again to continue to learn from him.
What got you into coaching? Because you had that stint in the WNBA with Seattle. What made you pivot to coaching?
So I was playing in Germany after my little stint in the WNBA, which was such a great, blessing to be able to be a part of that. But while I was over in Germany, I just realized that college basketball is like where I wanted to be again. It's such a great opportunity for players, and I think even coaches and people like me that want to get back into this type of environment. It's so fun. Cougar Nation is absolutely amazing. They have such great support for all the teams, and it's just a place I wanted to be back again, especially like at BYU, but anywhere I could get in, I was really grateful for the opportunity. And yeah, that was kind of like the situation, and I just felt, I need to be back in college athletics.
With you, Coach Wardenberg, Coach Cummard, is BYU going to get back to the levels that you experience as a player? I mean, that season 4 years ago, one of the best teams in the country, 6th seed in the NCAA tournament. It's been a little bit difficult the last few years. Can this program get back, you think?
I definitely think so. I mean, I hope that me being a part of it can help elevate the program, and I think every single one of the coaches on staff has already been doing that. So I'm really grateful to be back and try to get us back to NCAA opportunities, because that's really what every team is chasing every season, and it's definitely, I think, a standard that BYU women's basketball has and should keep. So it's definitely something that I'm excited to push for and get the girls, focused towards that goal.
Is the talent on this roster in a place, you think, to get back to the NCAA tournament that you experienced as a player?
I definitely think so. We have such great athletes on this team. We brought in some great athletes as well, and I think just bringing them all together is the mix in the cake that's going to be built for us. So we definitely have the talent. That's no question when it comes to that. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get games going.
Last couple of moments here with Coach Harding here. I'm curious, what do you think can be done at BYU to get this fan base for women's basketball built up to a higher level? We see it at football, men's basketball, but even some of the Olympic sports too. There's some energetic crowds, and you experienced that as a senior. I think it was the Gonzaga game where there was almost 10,000 fans. What can be done, you think, to get this fan base built to a higher level for women's basketball here?
I mean, as a player, that was always one of my goals and my teammates' goals, to continue to fill up the MC like the other sports on campus have done, which I think is great, but you have to also put a good product out on the court. So the more people are excited about you, I think the more fans know us girls and us coaches and players. I think that just brings more people in, and when you start a tradition, you got to keep that going. So I think the more and more we win and the more these players get known by Cougar Nation, the more people will come out. So it's just a byproduct of being an athlete, and it kind of comes with it, especially a female athlete. But I think Cougar Nation can come back to the MC and cheer us on in the Marriott Center.
Last thing for you, what's been the biggest change from BYU when you were a player 4 years ago to now in the Big 12? Like, did you get here and just thought, wow, this is night and day different? Like, what are some of the big changes?
I'm really impressed with what BYU has done, especially for women's basketball and men's basketball. From just the 4 years I've been gone, I mean, the weight room facilities here in the annex have been elevated, I think very much in part to Coach Young, which is an absolute amazing addition to, BYU athletics. But so many different things. I think we've elevated so much. I know just even on the back end, the women's team is getting meals every single day after practice. So it's just little things, that help the athletes continue to improve and be sustained throughout their career. There's so much stuff. I mean, I could go off and name a million things, but I'm just glad that I could have been a part of it to help push, that system to go up and up and up for these women. I'm excited about it.
Well, welcome back to BYU. Looking forward to this season, and it should be a lot of fun this year.
Thank you.
That's BYU women's basketball assistant head coach Paisley Johnson-Harding. BYU women's basketball opens the season on October 28th with an exhibition against Western Colorado. Season opener is November 5th against Coastal Carolina. Hey, maybe the women's team can get some revenge for that football game 5 years ago. But I do think that this women's basketball program's got some potential with Lee Cummard, their preseason pick number 10 in the Big 12. But with a player like Delaney Gibb, she's got to be a superstar. She's going into her second season, sophomore campaign, really never wavered on BYU after Lee Cummard was hired. And I think that alone was worth hiring Lee Cummard as the head coach to retain a potential superstar in women's college basketball in Delaney Gibb. She's got to become a superstar. If BYU wants to get to the heights that they aspire to reach, she's got to be special for the Cougars. But should be a lot of fun to see how BYU women's basketball kind of comes together this season and in the years ahead under Lee Cummard. Let's take a break. We'll get to BYU football as Bear Bachmeier continues to thrive as the Cougars QB1 right here on Cougar Tracks. Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports YouTube page. Bear Bachmeier, BYU freshman quarterback, I think he's become a legend already for Cougar fans. You get a win over Utah, you are viewed in high regard by BYU fans. I mean, every quarterback that gets a win over the Utes in the 21st century, there's some really good players, some of the best that have thrown the rock at BYU. And Bear Bachmeier, as a true freshman, the first true freshman quarterback to get a win over Utah as a quarterback. That's pretty impressive stuff. I remember some true freshmen that have played in the past against the Utes. Think back to 2003, the Snow Bowl game, 3-0. Was that Jackson Brown? Yeah, it's not always easy for freshman quarterbacks to come into games against the Utes and win those games. BYU got it done, though, with Bear Bachmeier. And I asked Kalani Sitake about Bear, and he told me that Bear Bachmeier is a special player. There's no doubt about that. But I asked him about what's it going to take for Bear to stay hungry and humble despite all the attention that's going to start to build. And this was Kalani.
He's the exact definition of it. That's why. I mean, you guys have been watching him. Have you seen any of the success go to his head at all? He is humble. He thinks of others. He's a great teammate. And so it's great to have him and the coaches and everybody that's bought into what we're trying to focus on, which is a team. I mean, he did service, on his time off, and so this young man gets it, and we just need to make sure that we keep putting him in a position where he can really thrive in the humble and stay humble and stay hungry standard that we've set, and I think he'll do really well for the rest of the team too.
Kalani has full trust in Bear Bachmeier to have success and be that hungry and humble athlete that he looks for in his players. I think that Bear Bachmeier, he's just kind of a cool customer. The little rap video that he did on Waylon Lapuaho's X page where he's rapping about Sonny Mocassini, he's just a humble guy. And I think that's going to be something very important for him going forward because the spotlight is BYU's QB1. It's significant, and it can go to your head. But I think for Bear Bachmeier, he's just a normal, grounded guy. I think he's very just simple guy that doesn't need much flair, and I don't think he's going to let it go to his head. And when Kalani's saying that, I buy into that because I think Bear is just kind of a simple guy, and I just don't think that this attention and this success is suddenly going to go to his head. I think he's just excited that he's delivering wins and having success for BYU. Look, I was kind of skeptical at times of a true freshman quarterback getting the reins to a team like BYU this season. But at the same time, I think Bear Bachmeier has shown that he has been able to take so much in of this offense at a very high level. And brick by brick, it's building up week after week. All these different check marks first game, first Power 4 start, first Big 12 game, first rivalry game. He continues to pass with flying colors, and he's getting more in-depth with how he's executing the offensive playbook. You know, BYU is top 30 in both total defense and total offense. It's complementary football right now for BYU. It's not all on the shoulders of Bear Bachmeier. And we've talked about that going into the season, that was one of the nice luxuries for a true freshman quarterback taking this job, was that you've got a great defense alongside you. You've got a special teams that's really good too, but you got to hold up your end of the bargain. And Bear has definitely done that. Bear has been excellent for BYU, and I just continue to be impressed when the moments where pressure is building, that's where he's stepped up. You know, the Colorado game, BYU looked dead in the water, 14-0. Pressure's building. Slowly but surely, he works their way back. Gets BYU in a situation where it's only 14-10 at half. Bear Bachmeier continues to always make the right decisions. And if he can continue to complete passes at a high clip as he's doing, take care of the football, no turnovers, I mean, this guy is having so much success. He's only got 3 interceptions through 7 games. 3 interceptions through 7 games. There's only 5 games left in the season. And he's only got 3 picks. So this is a guy that's showing that he is very consistent, very reliable, and those are things you can build off of if you're Aaron Roderick and you're Kalani Sitake, and that's an incredible foundation to build around. And suddenly you're talking about a BYU program that's got a star quarterback that also is very physical too and can withstand some hits. You don't want him to take hits, but he's got the build and the frame that he's not going to be, banged up. You saw Devin Dampier for Utah. He got banged up in that game. It was no surprise that Bird Ficklin was the guy they were turning to run the football out of Wildcat and out of the backup quarterback spot because Devin Dampier was clearly banged up. Bear Bachmeier has the ability to withstand hits, and that's a nice luxury for this BYU team to have a guy that's got some size like Bear does. And then you also add in the fact that he's just a guy that's building up the locker room, because you have to be, as a quarterback, a guy that unifies the locker room. And Bear is doing that. Everyone has rallied around him. It's been impressive to see. And I'm curious to see what the next chapters are for Bear this season. I think BYU, they can continue to play this underdog card despite being 7-0, having what you would think would be a massive target on the back, but it's not. They continue to be overlooked. And for guys like Bear Bachmeier, LJ Martin, they're like, sign me up. They're thriving in that spot. And Bear Bachmeier is definitely hungry and humble as he continues to lead BYU through this 2025 season. That's going to do it for this edition of Cougar Tracks. I hope all of you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to the show. Leave a 5-star rating and a review. Helps out the podcast a ton. I will talk to you tomorrow with more BYU basketball and BYU football content from Kansas City here on Cougar Tracks, and it's powered by KSL Sports and KSLSports.com.